Mr. Mueller, not only have you done a very aggressive and I think so far very effective reorganization of the FBI, you've done an excellent job in preempting this commission and its recommendations by putting a system in place which might result in some difficulties in unwinding. But I will ask you in connection with your last point to try to imagine that we really were starting all over again without existing institutions in this field, as to whether or not, your ideal in law enforcement and intelligence would be the two agencies that we have at the present time, one law enforcement and domestic intelligence and one foreign intelligence, two separate entities, one law enforcement and one all intelligence, both domestic and foreign, three, one for each of these, or one in which foreign and domestic intelligence were united together with law enforcement itself.
Well, let me start from the premise that you were working on a clean sheet of paper.
That's what I would like you to do in this case.
And working on a clean sheet of paper, if we go back all of those years and put history behind us, I think there are benefits to a separate intelligence organization where you have recruiting for intelligence and you focus on intelligence. I think that's an argument that we have to give. But then you look at the other side. And in order to deter attacks in the future, it cannot be one agency, particularly when you're looking domestically in the United States, and it's not just the FBI. What we have to do is leverage ourselves with every police department, state and local law enforcement, in order to gather the intelligence, the information in our communities, have it passed up so that we can be more predictive. And what the FBI brings to that intelligence gathering capacity is the 56 field offices we have around the country, more than 400 satellite offices in just about every one of our communities, who have intersected over the years with state and local law enforcement in a wide variety of undertakings and developed the relationships that are so important to leveraging that throughout the United States. So that's number one. The second point I think is very important is to reflect upon where we were before September 11th with the wall, where you had the divorcing of intelligence and criminal, which was often tremendously artificial. And there are a number of contributing factors to that, but that was a fact of life before. What we have done since September 11th is broken down those walls, broken down that artificial determination of whether something's intelligence versus criminal. And what you have now is integrated in one agency within the United States, the ability, looking at it with state and local law enforcement, to push the intelligence aspects of any set of facts, so long as you can gather more intelligence, identify more persons, identify more telephone numbers, identify more email addresses, identify the networks both here in the United States, but then when you have to neutralize that individual in the sense of taking action, we have the ability to take that action at the appropriate time, and the decision maker has all those facts in front of them. I think that is tremendously important to our effectiveness. If you look at the other scenario, that one of them that you postulate, and that is, well, should you have a combined domestic and foreign intelligence? And I go back to what George said this morning that I think is on mark. One of the things that cannot be lost, I do not believe, when we address terrorism is the importance of, on the one hand, protecting our civil liberties. We don't want to look down or have historians in the future look back at us and say, okay, you won the war on terrorism, but you sacrificed your civil liberties. We operate within the rule of law. The FBI has always been trained of operating within the Constitution, understanding the importance within the United States of gathering information according to predication, according to the guidelines, whether it be the Attorney General, the statutes, and the like. And that is the way we operate in the United States, and that is the way we should operate in the United States, because we're called upon to gather information and intelligence on United States citizens. It is far different than what we're able to do overseas. And we have grown up with two different entities, one for overseas collection of information and one for domestic collection of information. And when it comes to collection of information, I think it is important that we have that separation. That is not the separation that we need when we come to analyzing, integrating that information. And that is where we did not have the capacity before September 11th. That is where we have put up that capacity in TTIC, and we have to improve that capacity.
Thank you. I gather I can summarize your answer that even if we were starting all over again, you'd like the present division, but we're not starting all over again, and so the argument is overwhelming on one side. But I want to follow up on one thing that you said about recruitment. Now, I'm a young man just having graduated from law school, maybe 1 or 2 years of experience, but all through my youth, I've watched television, and what I really want to be is an intelligence agent. That's my real ambition. Why am I going to apply to the FBI where I don't know what my career will be after 3 years, rather than the CIA where I do?
Well, as we build up our specialization, your staff statement described the specialization that we anticipate putting into place later this year and beginning of next year. You will come into the FBI if you want, with a background or a desire to become an intelligence officer. And if you have the aptitude to do it, what we want you to do is understand the full scope of what the FBI can do, all of its capabilities, both on the criminal side and the intelligence side. So we put you through 3 years in a smaller office. Thereafter, you will specialize. You will specialize as an intelligence officer. You will have a designation as an intelligence officer. It will be the same type of designation that you have as an intelligence officer, if it's the CIA, the DIA, or the NSA. We hope to replicate that. But let me just go one step further and say that there are some persons that would want to come into the FBI and not wear a badge and a gun, not be an agent. A sharp individual who comes out of a Middle East language studies and wants to direct collection, institute requirements. We are building up, and what we hope to do and are doing now is building up our analytical capabilities so that a person can come in as an analyst and become an intelligence officer without ever having to wear a gun or wear a badge and carry a gun. We want those people. We want those people within the Bureau, and we want to give them the stature that has not always been there in the Bureau.
Now I'd like to move on, not to these theories and recruitments, but to what you've actually done. Now, granted, first, that you have been a very effective director, and second, that you've had the huge inspiration that 9/11 provided for you. Nevertheless, your predecessors over a period of years created first an Office of Intelligence, next a Counterterrorism Division and an Investigative Services Division, and next MaxCap 05, all of which seem to be, at least on the surface, simply different names for your Office of Intelligence. If those 3 experiments didn't work, why is yours going to work?
I would tell you, after September 11th, and the days and the weeks and months afterwards, I was looking for a vision of how we build up our analytical capability, how we improve our analyst corps. I had a strong belief in talking to analysts, in talking to George Tenet, in learning about the intelligence community, that for effective analysis, the strategic analysts need to be close to the information. That the quality of the analysis you get is greatly enhanced with the strategic analysts being close to the information that they're called upon to analyze. But I did not have the vision that I needed to say, okay, where is the Bureau going? And when I brought Maureen Baginski on from the NSA, she came with a vision of where we needed to go over a 5-year period. And it encompassed not just the analysts, but also the translators, the surveillance, the development of reports officers, the dissemination of information such as we had not had in the past. And what she brought to my thinking was an understanding and a vision of what we could be in the intelligence community. The fact of the matter is, prior to September 11th, we did not have reports officers. We did not have the function of taking the information, stripping off the sources and methods, putting it in IIRs, and distributing it to the intelligence community. And before she came on board, and since she's come on board, we have produced more than 2,000 IIRs, which is, we started from scratch. We have become, since September 11th, a member of the intelligence community in ways that we have not in the past. The last point I would make is that we have, you're absolutely right, and persons who talked about it up here before, we have had the law enforcement view of factual patterns. I think since September 11th, we all in the FBI understand that it is a different ballgame. We are at war. And that the information that in the past we have looked at as the predicate for a case, for a courtroom, is much more than that. It is now information that has to be centralized, it has to be integrated, it has to be analyzed, and it has to be disseminated. Part of that is building up the reports officers cadre. But back to your point, what is different now is, one, the vision that we have of where we're going, the CONOPS that we have provided to you, and the belief that we can and will put the structure in place that will last longer than I'll be there, or Maureen will be there, but will be the intelligence function in the Bureau that was lacking prior to September 11th.
Thank you, Mr. Director. You've talked me out of any more questions.